In the second lecture, we discuss about entities, entity types, attribute and its type, relationship and types of relationships. First, we discuss about entity and entity sets. What is an entity? An entity is a thing or object in the real world that is distinguishable from all other objects. For example, if you can take any one organization, institution, we will have so many entities. Within your college, what are the types of entities here? Employee is an entity, student is an entity, and next one is the course is an entity, accounts is an entity, registration is an entity, and like that we have to define the so many entities. And next we discuss about entity sets. An entity set is a group of similar kind of entities. It may contain entities with attributes sharing similar values. All the students having the same kind of values. Entities are represented by their properties, which is called as attributes. The other name for the attributes, we call it as a properties or maybe the features. If you want to define the entity, compulsory you should define the attributes. All attributes have their separate values. For example, a student entity, if you are taking, it's having different kinds of the attributes. What are those attributes here? Name of the student, age of the student, class of the student, email address of the student, course of the student, registration numbers, and next one is the examination details. These are all we call it as a features for defining of an entity. And next, entity categories. What are the types of entities here? We can define two types of entities. One is the strong entity and second one is the weak entity. Now we have to identify that the entity is strong or weak. A strong entity can be defined by its own attributes, but while weak entity, it cannot have its own entities, its own attributes. Entity keys. What are the types of keys are needed to define the entities? Here we have to define an entity within the particular entity set. Compulsory we should need different kinds of the keys. What are the types of entity keys here? Super key, candidate key, primary key. Super key means not only single attribute. Instead of single attribute, we are taking as a set of attributes defining of an entity in the entity set. What is the meaning of candidate key? Candidate key is a minimal super key, meaning it has the least possible number of attributes to still be a super key. An entity set may have more than one candidate key. Next one important key is the primary key. A primary key within the particular database uniquely identifying of an entity set. For each data set or table having only one primary key. And next one is the foreign key. The foreign key means why we are defining the foreign key within the particular database means we have to define the different kinds of the relationship between different kinds of the entities. The symbol for the entity is the rectangle. Next one, attributes. What is the shape of attribute is? Here we have to define on the top left corner is oval shape. This is the symbol of attributes. What is the meaning of attributes? Already we discussed in the before topic. An attribute we call it as a property or the characteristics or the feature of an entity. And next one is within the attribute we have the one more attribute is there, that is we call it as a descriptive attribute. Descriptive attributes can be defined with for the relationship. If you have defined any relationship between the attribute, for the particular relationship attribute we call it as a descriptive attributes. And next one we have to discuss about what are the categories of attributes. The attributes can be categorized by simple attribute, composite attribute, derived attribute, and next one is the single valued or multi-valued. What is the single attribute? The single attribute means that is the particular attribute value is atomic and it cannot further divided. The example for the simple attribute is the phone number. Phone number is 10-digit number, automatically we can't further divide the whole 10 numbers. That is common to all the human being. Second one, composite attribute. The composite attribute means if you have any attribute is there, the particular attribute can be subdivided into the two different attributes. For example, if you are taking the name can be further divided into first name and last name. This is we call it as a composite attribute. Next one, derived attribute. The derived attributes means if you want to calculate any attribute value, automatically we have to derive it from another attribute. For example, if you want to calculate the student age, automatically we have to calculate from the derived attribute name is the birth date. From the birth date only we have to calculate the age of the student or maybe the any human being. Next one is the multi-valued attribute. That means more than one attribute value is denoted. For example, if you can take the multi-valued mean multi phone numbers, multi SIM cards or maybe the multi debit or credit cards. These are the examples of attribute categories. Next, we discuss about relationship. If you define any number of if you define any entities within the particular set, first we have to need the connection between the entities. The connectivity we call it as a relationship. For example, student and teacher. What is the relationship between a student and teacher? Student listen the classes of particular teachers, or teacher teaches the particular class. And next one is that means if you have to maintain the relationship between the different kinds of the entity set, that means it will be associating number of entities within the single set, that is we call it as a relationship. A person have only one password and a password is given to one person. This is we call it as a person to person, and next one is the password. And here we have to define the relationships are the different cardinalities, that is the one-to-one or one-to-many or many-to-many relationship also. Now here we have to see what are the one-to-one relationship, one-to-many relationship and many-to-one relationship. Already you know that one attribute, one entity with the multi entities, or one entity with the one entity, many entities with the many entities, any kind of the relationship. We have to define the relationship by using of one, that is the single, and next one is the M means that is the multi relationship or many relationships. And next one we have to see that what are the relationship sets. A relationship is an association among the several entities. That means we have to maintain some association between the different kinds of the entities, that is the two entities or the three entities or the four entities, that is your wish. Based on the entity set, we should maintain the different kinds of the association. A relationship set is a set of relationships of the same type. Each relationship is maintaining attributes. So what are the attributes are maintaining? Those attributes we call it as a descriptive attribute. And next one is the main advantage for the descriptive attribute is descriptive attributes are used to record the information about the relationship rather than about any one of the participating entities. Next one we have to see that participation constraints. What are the types of participation here? Either total participation or maybe the partial participation. What is the total participation here? Each entity is involved in the relationship. We call it as a total. Each and every entity if you are defined means if each and everything is involved in the relationship, that is we call it as a total participation. How to define the total participation? We have to represent it by using of the double lines. Next one, partial participation. That means each and every entity is not involved in the relationship. Some of the entities are involved within the relationship, that is we call it as a partial participation. How to represent the partial participation? By using of single lines. Now here we have to see the examples for the unary relationship, binary relationship, ternary relationships. These are the types of relationships. First one we discuss about the unary relationship type. If a relationship type is between the entities in a single entity type, it is called the unary. That means both the side entity names are the common. Observe that within the diagram also both the side, that is the left side as well as the right side also student only. In between we have to define the relationship as a friendship. The friendship can be maintained between the student, the friendship can be maintained between the employees. That means both entity sets are the types, nature is the common. And next one is the binary relationship. Binary relationship means two entities natures are the different. One side here we have to observe that within the diagram, one side is the teacher, next side is the students. Here we should maintain the relationship is one to many, one teacher with many students. The teacher teaches the students. That means this is the example of the binary relationship. Next one, ternary relationship. What is the ternary relationship? Instead of two relationships, we should define the three relationships. Yes or no? That's why here we are providing the different kinds of the relationship between the three entities. Three entities are associated with one relationship. Employee works in so and so company in so and so location. That is, we need the three entities: employee, organization, and next one is the location. Okay, thank you all.